15 hours, the average lifespan of an Imperial Guard soldier once deployed to an active war zone. It's this level of attrition and mortality rates that the Astra Militarum and their commanders commend themselves on, believing in the adage that no problem can't be resolved with the application of more troops. The Imperial Guard are the backbone of the Imperial war engine, and the largest coherent fighting force in the entire galaxy. Unnumbered human troops, supported by heavily armoured tanks and artillery, they fight the never-ending war for humanity's survival. While some worlds raise their armies through recruitment or a cultural sense of duty, many worlds across the Imperium conscript soldiers into their fighting forces. For many Imperial Guard troopers, they are pressed into service to fill quotas, and shipped off to the nearest war zone to either die or settle down wherever they end up, should they reach retirement. As you can imagine, in a galaxy-spanning empire such as the Imperium, there's a lot of diversity in the many worlds and the people that reside upon them. This variation then carries across to the different regiments of the Imperial Guard, each with their own specialties, fighting styles, and sometimes their own funny hats. The most well-known of the Imperial Guard regiments are the Cadian shock troopers. The poster boys, these are probably the guys you've seen on the boxes at your local store. Highly disciplined, the people of Cadia have known only war for thousands of years, acting as a barrier to the Eye of Terror. Living and fighting on their world beneath this Terran reality has bred a hardy people, a world so indoctrinated into the military that by the age of 5, most Cadian children can disassemble, clean, and reassemble a lasgun without issue. Such is the skill and renown of the Cadian shock troops that other systems use the Cadian standard when training theirs. Whilst the planet of Cadia was destroyed during Abaddon the Despoiler's 13th Black Crusade, those Cadian regiments not recalled to their homeworld still fight on throughout the galaxy, their battle fury only strengthened by the hunt for revenge against the forces of chaos. Even those that died defending their homeworld, it took the Despoiler literally dropping a legendary space fortress onto the planet from orbit to break Cadia, literally tearing it apart as Abaddon tried to reenact the death of the dinosaurs. This has led to a saying amongst the Cadians who still fight: "Let it be known, the planet broke before the Guard did." It's not just massed manpower that the Astra Militarum rely on, however, boasting entire armoured divisions of tanks, personnel carriers, and artillery vehicles. With enough loaded firepower to bring a fortress crumbling down, these armoured regiments pull up alongside their infantry allies, offering fire support and cover for the soldiers of the Imperium to race across the battlefield and bring their bayonets to bear. My personal favourite of the fire support options that are typically present amongst a well-armed Astra Militarum force is the Death Strike missile launcher. This mobile ballistic missile launcher is capable of firing the 40k equivalent of an intercontinental ballistic missile. Basically a mini nuke strapped on the top of a chimera, these are the ultimate middle finger to the enemy. Often not deployed due to the potential collateral damage, or if a position needs to be captured rather than destroyed. These big brutes are reserved for when the Imperial commanders are ordered to make something disappear.
"You see that fortification over there, Captain? Well, I don't want to anymore."
For those times where the conflict calls for heavy firepower, but not quite on an extinction level, the Guard have an arsenal of different patterns of heavy vehicle to pick from. Arguably the most famous and commonly seen are the Leman Russ. Named after the Primarch of the Space Wolves, who had found the STC for the vehicle during the Great Crusade, this medium tank wasn't designed by an artist. It is a brutal weapon of war, reliable and robust, and capable of surviving most of what the galaxy could throw at it. Being able to operate on almost any combustible fuel, this heavily armoured beast slowly advances on the enemy's lines, enemy fire plinking off its hull as it brings its main battle cannon to return fire. With different variances coming in the form of differing cannon weapons, as well as refittable sponsons, each Leman Russ can be outfitted to handle whatever the next conflict needs. Whether that's rapid Gatling shots and heavy flamers to take down hordes of Tyranids, or larger ordnance for those occasions where a little bit less subtlety is required. For those rare occasions where the squadrons of Leman Russ battle tanks aren't enough, or for commanders with resources to burn, there is a tank variant that dwarfs the Leman Russ or their bigger brother, the Rogel Dawn. Whilst not named after a Primarch, the Baneblade and its variants are the pinnacle of the Astra Militarum's armory. Just blocks of armour and bullets that crush all in their path as they grind their way through heretics and traitors beneath their treads. So huge are these vehicles that their mounted weapons are those that would typically be the main weapons on Imperial Titans. The mega weapons of these towering walkers mounted atop a slab of mobile ceramite and just sent off into battle. The greatest strength, however, of the armies of the Imperial Guard are not the Death Strikes, the Leman Russ battle tanks, or even the Baneblades. What wins their wars is their vast numbers. Each Imperial world is subject to tithe and required to supply a number of guard regiments each year. All must also be ready to muster more regiments on command, in the case of a nearby campaign. Whilst they might not be genetically enhanced super soldiers or chaos-empowered lords, what the Imperial Guard troopers lack in power, they make up for in volume. Proving that sometimes quantity over quality does work, the lives of the Imperial Guard are reduced to numbers on a spreadsheet, cogitators and commanders working out acceptable levels of loss in order to defeat their foe. For each Imperial Guard, all they can do is keep their head down, follow orders, and pray to the Emperor that they survive the next order to charge. To keep the regiments in line, and to catch any cowardice or turncoats before things get out of hand, the Officio Praefectus recruits and trains up Commissar officers. These regimental Commissars are to maintain the morale of the troopers under their command, and are sanctioned to do whatever is necessary in order to complete this task. This can often include the summary execution of any soldier who abandons their post, with the intention of reminding the other troopers that whilst they may fall to the enemy, they will definitely fall to their commander's bolt pistol should they try to flee. There are some famous exceptions to this more traditional Commissar outlook, such as Caiaphas Cain and Ibram Gaunt, both of whom opt instead to keep their troopers happy by keeping them alive, operating tactics that reduce casualties and trusting in their troopers' skills to carry the day through. This method also has the added bonus that unlike other Commissars, they don't typically have to worry about the guard force under their command turning en masse against them. It has been known on rare occasions for operational accidents to take out regimental Commissars who are a tad trigger happy on dispensing Imperial justice, their men feigning ignorance as to the sudden demise of their commander. Wherever the forces of the Imperium go to war, and whether it's the Titan Legions, the Adeptus Astartes, or the agents of the Inquisition, it is the Imperial Guard that really carry the conflict. They might not be at the heart of the resolution, or be crowned as the heroes that slew the traitorous warlord, but without the thousands upon thousands of Imperial troopers involved, the Imperium couldn't sustain the amount of war fronts they're currently fighting on. If you were to say that the Space Marines are the main characters, the Imperial Guard are the supporting roles, the stagehands, and that poor guy who got cast as a tree in the background of the play. They aren't the flashiest, but if underestimated, can prove that even the humble lasgun and a can-do attitude can turn the tide of battle. If like me, you're a big fan of the Imperial Guard. Let me know what aspect of their lore we should cover next. I'm also soon to start repainting my own Guard army, so any suggestions of colours drop down in the comments would be really appreciated. As always, if you've enjoyed the video, then click that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us to continue what we're doing. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.